Did the musical compositions come first, or was it more of you wrote a script and you decided, I'm gonna put music behind it?
The music came first. Yeah, the songs were all there. Um, I wrote, I think it was in 2011 during the winter. I just I had finished school and I was kind of like trying to figure out what to do next, and I had a I had this kind of transitional period of time where I was not sure what I would be doing, and I just went home to my parents' house. They have this really beautiful piano, and I just kind of camped out next to the piano for 3 months this one winter, and just I don't know, it just all came out in one kind of um, outpouring. I don't know. The idea was there. I think the general framework of a story about this character was there, um, but the songs really came first, and the story was really crafted around the music. Yeah.
How long did it take you to find a narrative when you started to put that together?
I would say say it came pretty fluidly. I mean, it was definitely in the songs. I think like I had the idea, I had the basic premise, so I started writing the music with that in mind. Um, and once the character kind of was like fleshed out, there were some songs that I actually had already written that weren't intended to be part of the film that I was able to recycle and rewrite some lyrics for and make into scenes of the movie. And they just happened to work. I had to rewrite a few of the lyrics and make them into a part of the story. But maybe 3 months, I had the first draft, um, and then it took me a while before I really could like reapproach it and edit it and rewrite the second draft and third and fourth and fifth until it was ready to produce. That process, I actually spent some time working on other projects in between, so I could really take the time I knew I needed before I would be sure it was ready to produce. Because you know how much work it takes to produce a film, so I just wanted to make sure that the script was ready. So I think I took probably, it wasn't until 2014 that we started production. So 2 years of kind of letting it settle, letting it sort of steep, and then I came back to it and kind of tore it up. I had this really cool copy of the first draft that's like with scissors just cutting pieces out, and there's tape, and like it's this puzzle piece that I kind of chopped it up and put it back together. And so then I really felt like I had something. The story came together.
On musicals, for Hollywood musicals, the production value and the scope of it and producing something like this is a lot more massive than on a level of just doing a narrative film and shooting it. So I imagine your pre-production process must have been monstrous. So talk about that and how what unique challenges did you face with that being an indie filmmaker and trying to narrate in this space?
Yeah, that was a huge challenge, and I don't have an experience to compare it to, having not done a regular narrative feature film. So for me, this was just the challenge I had. This was just what it was, and I can imagine with like a really massive budget, yeah, it would have been much easier because I think the main challenge was just lacking time. We didn't have the time that I would have liked to rehearse with some of the cast, because you have to go in and have all of the songs learned on set because they're singing along to the demo recordings, and everything has to be really rehearsed. There were some scenes, for example, like the big courtroom scene, where all of these extras came in, and like the morning of the shoot, I was in there like conducting them like a choir, trying to teach all these non-singers these parts, and they're having to like mouth all the words, learn all the lyrics, and then our choreographers there teaching them these steps, and they have to kind of, it's like a lot of stuff for people to integrate really quickly and then do on set and do well. And so I think, yeah, there was just a lack of time. We had like the courtroom again. It's another great example for not just the songs, but the coverage cinematically. It was immense. We had so many setups, and it just took, we just had to fly through them.
Your character actually at one point during the film says, "I hate musicals. I don't know why I'm doing this." So talk about a little bit about how you mix the music and the dialogue together, and what choices you made in order to kind of not make it so overtly musical, and kind of give it a narrative as well with the dialogue.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's I think for anyone who's tried to write a musical, that's the key right there. That's the toughest part is finding ways to transition from those more naturalistic dialogues into the songs that don't just throw you off and seem really jarring and kind of forced, you know.
Yeah.
So for me, I tried. There were a few different approaches. Some scenes take an approach which tries to really like move seamlessly into the music and, you know, kind of have the music enter very, very subtly and almost in a way that it feels as if they were already singing or now they're still talking even though they're singing. You know, try to blur the line. And that's also why I chose to cast non-trained singers. I mean, they're all fantastic singers, but none of them were Broadway singers,
Right.
really, except for Allison the Judge. But
Who doesn't sing that much?
who
in the
doesn't
movie?
sing that much, but when she does, she kills it. She's so good. But Carolyn and I, for example, both are not professional singers, especially not Broadway-style singers. And I think that was one of my choices in order to try to smooth the dialogue and the singing because the singing is so meek in a way. It's not over the top. You know, we're not belting out. So that transition is smaller. That move from singing or speaking to singing, the singing is very gentle. So it wasn't as difficult to make.
We used to laugh. We used to sleep the day away. We didn't care about the time. It was you and me, happily. I felt you so strong. You were the right to all my wrongs. And in the morning light, it was you and me. Trembling. I wanted you to be the one. 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 I wanted you to be.
There's a poignant moment in this film, about an hour in, where Celine kind of turns it on its head. She's got an impressive dialogue, monologue, if you will, that she has to, and it kind of shifts the entire focus of the film a little bit. So, how much of what the actors added to this changed your perspective on the film, or was it more like you guys worked it out ahead of time and was able to capture those moments without having to do too much changing?
The script didn't change a lot, but what changed was my idea of the character changed. I mean, as soon as Celine walked into the audition room, you know, I knew that this was the actor that we needed, and she brought everything to that character that it needed to become a real character and to really embody the emotional dissonance of her position, loving this character who's also very, you know, troubled and can't show up and be present for her as a partner, and she, you know, she understood that intuitively, and also the broader social dynamics of just being a woman in a culture that objectifies women, and where it's sometimes not even safe to walk on the subway platform or whatever. She came to the audition, and immediately you could feel like the intuitive, you know, understanding of those experiences, and so I just at that point I knew I could let go, and in many ways she was able to tell me what this character was about. At one point I had to just let go because it really was a process of listening and learning from her and what she brought to the table, and that was really fascinating and interesting and challenging too, because I was playing Tommy, but I was also directing the film, so there were two layers, and that dynamic of
And you're virtually in every scene in this
yeah,
movie.
yeah. So it was really hard to step back from being that character who's, you know, who's actually having that dilemma of not being able to really listen and really engage in a really productive way with his world and with his partner. And then at the same time, I needed to step back from that and be a director who could listen and
Right.
could engage with my actors in a way that was productive and affirming and also empowering, because they had so much that they brought to the project that I couldn't invest in them. As a writer, it was really Celine who finally showed me what that monologue meant and brought it to the camera. And because I saw other actors read those lines in auditions, and it had so many different possible interpretations.
Yeah,
And
sure.
so she really taught me a lot about what that character meant. And yeah, that was incredible, challenging as well.
So I imagine this. You said 2011 you started writing a script. So this has been a massive labor of love and an incredible, incredible journey, and probably more than you had signed on for. So, kind of walk me through. As this journey has gone on and you're headed toward the next thing. What have you discovered about yourself or learned that you're going to take with you to the next film? And specifically, production-wise, what are you going to do differently that you learned while making this movie, so that the journey's not as painful the next time around?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing as a screenwriter, I think you go into your first project and you write with this reckless abandon, having no clue what production will really cost or
Right.
entail, and you write crazy stuff. I'm there at my desk just dreaming up wild set pieces like floating desks and floating beds, and it's gonna rain in the apartment, and it's gonna do this and that, and in a way, I'm really glad that I didn't have that production experience beforehand going into the writing, because I probably would have tempered some of my vision. And I think so that's special. I think that's something that I will try to retain, actually, is that ambitious, innocence as a writer. I don't think I will change my writing, but what I will do is do more work in pre-production, gathering the right people, the right team, and the right financing to make sure that the project is equally matched. The script is equally matched to its team and its budget. And I think the problem with this project was that we just dove in and didn't really know. We tried, the production value of the film is so much higher than what we were actually working with, and I think that was what made it so hard and it took so long. Because when you're really faking it to make it look like it's $5 million, you have to do a lot of stuff yourself. You have to spend a lot more time. So I was in my studio for 2 years afterwards, working with some friends, and renting my apartment out on Airbnb just to survive, just to make, finish the soundtrack. And so that's the kind of thing that I would try to avoid next time.